Verse 2. Revelation 22 and verse 2. The idea to some people that God has placed healing power in plants, even restorative power in plants, seems revolutionary. People have never thought about that, but the Creator has put healing power in plants. Since our first night, we talked about how most medicines, even drug medications, have a plant origin. But we're talking about God's method of giving foods as medicine, and that the healing power that is in foods can be used therapeutically to maintain our health, or if we have lost our health or we are lacking health, to recover health. Look at Revelation 22 and notice what God is going to do even when the saints come marching in. Revelation 22 and verse 2 says this: in the midst of the street of it, on either side of the river, there was the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nation. Here we see that God, even in the plan of salvation at the end, when the saints have entered into heaven, He plans to use the power, a healing power in plants, to benefit the saints that have been redeemed. How much more do the plants upon earth also have the same idea, the same principle in them? We found, as we studied earlier in the first and second night, that God has put healing powers in plants, and we touched on those things and kept on moving forward and showed how these things, and when we eat foods that God has created, the natural food in their most simplest state, without overcooking them, or even eating some things that are nice and fresh as they're taken out of the garden, these things promote health. Now you look at your handout, quickly, there's a handout that looks like this with a lot of fruits and vegetables on there. On this handout, I've just taken a series of fruits and vegetables you can get in the store right down the street. It's not something you have to go into some strange store to find or go into some hidden herb store. These are things you find right in your supermarket. But many people don't think that these things, like apple, beets, cabbage, carrot, lemon, celery, they have medicinal properties. And when we talk about even the fact of juice, and we looked at the first book of 1 Timothy, and even Paul talked about how the juice of grape or the juice of fruits and vegetables have therapeutic uses. So if it's a biblical principle that Paul used, then we can use it as well. We're going to find when we look at this little handout, it talks about various fruits like apple and beets and carrots and so on, even certain things that you won't think about, like pears, that have a beneficial effect upon the body. Now, before we start looking at a few of these, and we want to give you this so you can read it at your own time. Before we start looking at a few of these, let me share something with you that's a real key to healing foods. Many people will say, well, I have this handout and it says pears on here. So I'm going to eat one pear now and then, and by eating one pear now and then, I'm going to get a real tremendous benefit. If we believe that by eating haphazardly foods now and then, if anything we do is not consistent and well planned out, we're going to get inconsistent and unexpected results. That's why when we look at this sheet with some of these healing properties, we also have a diet plan sheet. And these things work together to help you organize some thoughts of how you can take certain types of food that are seen here, certain type of vegetables that are seen here, certain types of nuts and seeds, and organize them into a diet plan. That this diet plan, if you follow it consistently, is going to help you with diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol problems, weight loss or weight gain. I've seen it hundreds and hundreds of times in cities all over the country I've worked in, that these simple principles, if you follow them correctly, are going to bring restoration. And again, we're talking about balancing these things. I want to look at four things: food and drink, rest and exercise. Food, drink, rest, exercise. These four things, you can break them into two categories. Water or food, or drink, I should say, and food are opposites. You have liquids and solids. And both of these, God uses these to promote health. And then you have exercise and rest. And these two are also principles of health, but they balance each other as well. They are opposites. And if we understand how to use these things correctly, because the Bible teaches them, we can have better health. On our handout with these little fruits and vegetables, you're going to find that these fruits and vegetables can be used in various ways. Now, again, I give you these handouts because I'm not going to read everything. I might touch on some of these things, but you can go home and read this in your own time without me talking to you while you're trying to read it. But when you look at these fruits and vegetables, I want you to know that these fruits and vegetables can be used in various ways. They can be taken and eaten consistently over a period of time, and they can promote health. And also they can be used even in other ways that can be of benefit. Like in other words, take for instance, apple. You can eat the apple, and by eating the apple and eating the apple with that fiber and the pectin inside there and all the various things in the skin and in the meat of the apple, you're going to get a physical benefit from that, both in your blood building, the type of blood you have, the strength of your blood, and also working through the digestive system, the colon, and helping remove constipation and various things. Wonderful. Yet and still, you can take that same apple and you can juice it, and by juicing apples, you can get a concentrated amount of the healing properties in apple, and take that and get the healing benefit of 5 or 6 apples, which you generally could not sit down and eat. Most people can't sit down and eat 6 apples, generally. The fiber content inside there and having to chew those things, as you start chewing, generally your body is physiologically designed that when you start chewing, after about 10 to 15 minutes of chewing, your body, the hypothalamus says you're satiated. And after 15 minutes, you really don't want to eat anymore. Your body is naturally designed to work that way. And the reason why people can sometimes eat a lot of food is because they're not eating fibrous foods. And foods that don't really chew a lot, they can eat much longer periods of time and not feel satiated. But if you eat fiber foods, the chewing mechanism, after 15 minutes or so, not only will your mouth get tired to a degree, but your body feels satiated. And that's a natural regulator God has put inside the body to keep you from overeating. When we eat foods that are refined and doesn't have fiber in it, that's why many people gain a lot of weight, because they're eating food that are not fibrous foods. Yet, when you juice apples or juice any type of fruit, you can get a lot more of the healing influence of that fruit in a small amount of time. Whereas it would take you, let's say a week to get the benefit of, let's say, 17 apples. You can drink the benefit of 17 apples in a day or two by taking juices. And if that apple that you were taking day by day was good for you and had healing properties in it, when you take a juice and you concentrate this together, it's like taking a therapeutic drink or even a medicine. The medicinal properties are even exponential now because you've concentrated it and you're drinking it on a consistent basis. This is the secret behind natural remedies or natural healing that people don't tell you. Most times people just want you to buy a pill or something in a bottle, and there may be some benefit to these things, but yet and still, people are not generally teaching people how natural remedies work, why they work, the philosophy behind it. I want to show you the philosophy behind it. In other words, there are foods you can take, and by allowing that food to be broken up, juiced, or cooked in the right way, the healing property can increase. Or you can actually squeeze that, crush that, and the healing properties be released. Now, why do I say the healing properties need to be released? Let's look at the Bible text. Let's go to the first book of your Bible now. Let's look at the book of Genesis. And let's see why there's a need of having these healing properties released, or even the idea that the healing power in fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, and grains, which we know these principles exist, they're not going to just come out and just be there for you automatically. We're in the book of Genesis. Genesis chapter 4 and verse 12. Genesis 4 and verse 12. The Bible teaches that the world was created over billions and billions of years in the process of evolution, or the Bible teaches that in 7 days, with the sun rising and the sun setting, in just 7 literal days, God created a planned out, systematic creation. Which one? Evolution? It was planned out. Systematic, and God did it point by point, instantaneous creation. If you believe in billions and billions of years, you don't believe in the Bible. And if you don't believe in the Bible, the benefit you'll get from understanding Bible truth and following it is going to be pretty much null and void. In the Bible, God said He created a perfect world. He planned it. He created it point by point by point. And all the healing properties we're talking about tonight were planned out by God. And these perfect fruits and vegetables, when man ate them in the Garden of Eden, they gave his perfect body perfect nutrition, everything he needed. But did something come into the world that God did not desire to come into the world called sin? Yes. And because of sin, we saw on our last night and even the first night, some things that happened and changed in the world because of sin. Like, say, for instance, disease, sickness, death came as a result of sin. We saw in Genesis 3 how God even added a change in diet because of sin. But know something in Genesis chapter 4 that also is needing our study tonight. Genesis 4 and verse 12. Do you remember when Cain killed Abel? What did God say to Cain after he killed Abel? Do you remember? What did he promise him? Let's look in verse 12. Genesis 4 and verse 12. It says this. It says, when thou tillest, that means to cultivate the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. Do you see that said? God said that when you now till the ground, when you cultivate the earth, when you bring produce, fruits and vegetables, something out of the ground, it will not, both the earth and that which comes from the earth will not do what? It will not give its strength unto thee. Now, if we had time, we don't have time now because of the sake of giving more practical information. I could take you on a Bible study on the word strength. You'll find that strength in the Bible has various meanings. And the word strength here means it's power. The earth has power in it. Even the power of the earth is found in calcium, iron, magnesium, phosphorus. All these elements of the earth are the strength of the earth. And God made man from the dust of the earth, did he not? God made man from the dust of the earth and breathed in his nostrils the breath of life. And man became a living soul with living tissues, blood, circulating air, and a conscious mind. But he came from the earth. God didn't say to go to the earth and take the earth and put it upon your skin to make you continue in this health or eat dirt. God gave man a diet that still came from the earth, but through a medium, a vehicle called trees, and also had to send through a medium called plants or herbs. The elements of the soil, whether it be calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, whatever it may be, would be changed or converted from inorganic elements to organic or living elements. From a tree, the inorganic elements of soil would be transmitted or changed into organic or living element. And these organic elements connected with vitamins and different enzymes will be found in the form of apples, oranges, peaches, plums, berries, leaves. All these things that we find growing are the strength from the earth now in plant form in a way that man can partake of it and receive it. Let's look at another text. Psalms 104. We looked in Genesis 4 and we found a very important text. Now look at Psalms 104 because we don't have a biblical foundation for what we're looking at. Psalms 104 and verse 14. Because in Genesis 4, God said the earth will not yield its strength unto thee. God made man from the earth, and the strength of the earth was in his body. And to maintain that strength, maintain the elements, the calcium, the different strength-giving properties and nutrients of the earth, he had to eat. God said in Genesis 1:29 that you must eat from the trees, because the trees converted the same thing that man was made from into forms that he could take it and partake of it and eat, whether it be apples, oranges, nuts, and so on. This is how God gave the exact thing he was made from back to him daily to maintain this body in order. And even the medicinal powers of the earth were given back to man. But Genesis 4 said, from now on, the earth will not yield a strength to you. Like it was before? No. The earth will not yield a strength to you. And now we're in the book of Psalms 104. I want to make a point here. Psalms 104. If God said that the earth will not yield a strength because one man killed one man, Cain killed Abel, what do you think it's like today? If one man killing one man, God said from now on, because of the blood going into the earth will not yield a strength unto you. How many people have been killed since Abel? How much blood has fallen to the earth since Abel? And how much nutrient power was in the fruits and vegetables before the flood at the creation, and how much is in there now? Brothers and sisters, even though we can live on the fruits and vegetables today, can you imagine how much power was in fruits and vegetables back then? Can you imagine? But notice what it says, Psalms 104. Psalms 104. This is why we need to understand how to get the nutrients from these plants that we need. Psalms 104, beginning with verse 14, the Bible says this. Psalms 104 and verse 14. Say amen if you have that. Do we have that? No one has a Bible tonight? Psalms 104 and verse 14. This is a quiet crowd, brothers. Quiet crowd. Psalms 104 and verse 14. It says, he causes the grass to grow for who? Are we there? Psalms 104:14. He caused the grass to grow for the cattle, and herb for the service of man, that he may bring forth what? Food out of the ground. So the grass was for the cattle to give him what? Food. And the herb was coming out of the ground to give man his food. But the Bible says that this herb that was for man was to to give man a service to man, was for the service of man. Now you look up that word service in the Hebrew. That word service means ministry. Ministry. That the herbs of the ground, just like the trees of the field, the herbs of the ground, the trees of the field were to minister or to give something unto man. That was the strength we talked about. That strength, the vitality, the nutrients, whether it be calcium, whether it be vitamins, all those things from the earth were to be communicated and ministered to man through herbs, that he may bring food out of the earth. So God's perfect idea to strengthen man, or given the service to man, was through food. And this food, as it was even cultivated from the ground, would not yield its strength unto all its strength. When we eat fruits and vegetables, generally the way that we generally eat fruits and vegetables, especially eating something raw, say you're eating a fresh salad, to a great degree, with many times the food you eat in salad, you're going to get a certain percentage of the nutrients there, a certain percentage. Why? Because the Bible says that the earth will not yield its strength to you. Because it was cursed because of the blood falling into it. You have, as a matter of fact, a few curses. When you look at the book of Genesis, when Adam and Eve sinned, then they had to till the ground. The earth was cursed, and now he had to have labor to try and cultivate the earth. That was the first curse. Then with Cain and Abel, he said, now because of this blood, now the earth will not yield its strength unto thee. Then you had the flood, and the flood again destroyed the earth, and now all the earth is completely different from the time it was before. Now Jesus said seed time and harvest will continue till the very end, but the type of food that we're eating today is not as powerful as it was then. It can still maintain life, but if we understand that the food that we have today is not generally going to yield its strength unto thee, then that text is just showing us we need to understand how we can get the best type of nutrients from our food by using methods. What kind of methods? There's a method called cooking. You ever heard of cooking? Simple. It's a simple method. And what does the cooking do? Let me give you an example. You ever heard of a tomato? Everyone knows a tomato, right? A tomato has one of the most powerful antioxidants known to man. Antioxidants is a chemical that reduces or eliminates oxidation. Now, if you don't know what oxidation is, when you take a potato and cut it in half and leave it on the countertop, it turns what color? Brown. Why the pure white piece of potato turn brown? Because it oxidizes. As that potato loses oxygen from its cells, it starts to decay, it starts to turn brown. It's called oxidation. And the same thing happens to every cell in your body. As you are a child, infant, getting older and older and older and older, you have all this vitality and you're growing to a certain point, and then when you reach maturity, now how you live when you were younger and also how you maintain your life from there on will dictate how your cells maintain themselves from here on. Because you have some people that are 28 that look 48, and some people that are 48 that look what? 28. Why? It's the foundation they had in their early years and also how they're living now. Because if they're eating the wrong type of foods, if they're drinking alcohol and smoking and not getting rest and not drinking water and not getting the type of fruits and vegetables that God has given to maintain man in health, then what's happening to their tissues and cells? It's oxidizing. It's oxidizing. The cells are losing oxygen. And there are certain foods that have chemicals in there called antioxidants. Guess where you find antioxidants? Fruits, nuts, vegetables. The same diet that God gave in the beginning is where we find antioxidants, where we find elements in the food that actually reduce wrinkling. You ever see people that just have a lot of wrinkles? Certain foods keep wrinkles from coming upon the body. It keeps oxidation from happening. It keeps degeneration from happening. And if people have wrinkles, it starts to promote well-being, and it has to remove those things within reason now. It's not going to make a 90-year-old man look 18. But it's a fact that God can maintain health by following his plan if we know how to use these things correctly, what they are, with sheets like this, information sheets like this, but also how to use them. Getting back to tomato. Tomato has one of the most powerful antioxidants inside there. But if you take a tomato and you bite into that fresh tomato, it may be delicious, may be juicy, it might give you the type of revitalizing feeling that you feel when you eat a fresh salad, and praise God for that. But guess what? That element, you get very little of it. Why? Because this chemical that's so powerful, antioxidant power, only is released when you heat it. You can chop it up, still doesn't come out. You can juice it, still doesn't come out. You have to heat it. Once you heat it, you take a tomato and you take 1 cup of tomato sauce, and there is 500% more of this element in tomato sauce than in a fresh tomato, just by heating it. Just by heating it. So the idea of taking everything raw, or that everything must be raw, is not sound. There's a truth that sin brings in, that the earth will not yield its strength unto you. And we talk about even using things medicinally. There is a need of proper cooking. Not just cooking generally, because sometimes we overcook things. And we cook things to the point where they are really no good for us. But proper cooking shows you how to cook things for their best benefit for the health, and also how to remove and bring out healing properties in food that are not as present if we just left it in its natural state. So cooking is one way. Also, we talked about juicing. Remember that? Get a juicer. Or even sometimes with some things, you don't even need a juicer. Now, I know someone's going to make a joke about this, but there's a way to juice without even using juicing. Say, for instance, you have watermelon. Now, I know you're going to say something. You can take a mesh bag. You ever seen those mesh bags? Sometimes you can buy these Ziploc bags, and they're plastic, and they zip at the top. You can buy a bag. It looks just like a Ziploc, but it's a mesh bag. It's just like almost like a strainer. It looks almost like a screen door, but it's a bag you can buy, and it's white or some different colors. And you can chop up watermelon or many types of melon, and you can place it inside this bag and zip it, and then you can just squeeze it, and all the mesh, because watermelon is very, very, very low in fiber content. You could squeeze it and get all the juice out of there, and it retains all the fiber. And that juice is very, very good for hydrating the body. There are various fruits and vegetables that hydrate the body better than Gatorade, Sportsaid. You ever heard of some of these drinks that people take? Gatorade and Sportsaid and all these various different things. Do you know that watermelon juice, coconut water, and some of these things that are very, very popular in the South or even in the Caribbean, these things hydrate the body. It's been scientifically proven that hydrate the body better than Gatorade, Sportsaid, and all these sports drinks combined. What God has done is greater than anything that man can create. But yet people are just now awakening to the fact that they can use these things to recover their health or even to promote health. So there's various foods out there that if we can know how to cook correctly, how to use juicing correctly, how to even cut things up or use a blender. How many people have a blender at home? Anyone have a blender? Remember we talked about seeds yesterday. Now we don't have any seeds on this sheet. I'm going to talk about that in the dietary plan in a second. We talked about seed, and we talked something about flaxseed. Flaxseed is a little brown seed, and most people don't even hear or know much about flaxseed. But flaxseed is where, we talked on yesterday, we can get our omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids, which is very good for cell division. It's good for good skin, healthy function of the immune system, and so on. Very essential for your health, very essential. And flaxseed is very inexpensive. Rather than going to the store and buying capsules for $20 or $30 a bottle or so on and so forth of different oils, if you get flaxseed, and I'll even say this, do you know some people have some people have very, very difficult times when they get older because they're not eating enough fiber, and they get fiber laxatives because they're constipated. Like, you ever heard of Metamucil? You know what Metamucil is? Metamucil is a seed that you can buy in a store for like 50 cents to 75 cents a pound. You could buy this seed. And people buy this much Metamucil, which is maybe, I don't know, blended up, maybe 20 cents, 25 cents worth of seed. People spend $10 for Metamucil, and it's 25 cents worth of psyllium seed. That's basically all it is, which is basically giving you in a drink the fiber you should be eating if you're eating fruits, nuts, grains. And as soon as you take a little drink of that, all of a sudden now you can go to the restroom. But all you had to do was eat the way that God told you originally and not have to spend all these hundreds of dollars in fiber laxative. But I'll digress from that. Flaxseed is another type of seed that has even more greater nutritional benefit than even psyllium seed. But the interesting thing about flaxseed is if you just take flaxseed by itself, and there's various foods now in cereals that have flax inside because flax is now a great health food and people are looking for it. But they have flax seeds in these cereals, and the flax seeds are whole seeds. Flax seeds in their whole state cannot be digested. Most time people eat flax seed in their cereal, and Not to be offensive, but when they eat the flaxseed, it comes out the other end the same way they ate it, because it can't be digested that way. The way to eat flaxseed, you have to blend it. You have to break it up. When you break it up, when you take it inside a little blender or a little food processor and whiz it up, it becomes like a powder. And rather than just putting these seeds on your food, you sprinkle the powder, and you get tremendous health benefits to the immune system. Clear skin, healthy bowel, blood development. I mean, all the various things that we need for health, endurance, from just a little sprinkling of a seed powder on your food, that costs pennies. But this flaxseed, it cannot be properly, or the benefits of it cannot be properly assimilated if you just take the actual seed itself. It must be broken up and even made into a little powder, so that as each little cell is broken, so it can give you nutritional benefit. Because, as the Bible said, these things will not yield their strength unto you easily. We have to cook them, prepare them, put them in a way that we get a balance of fresh vegetables and so on in their natural state, as well as cooked and prepared foods that in combination, they're giving us what we need. Now, do we understand that? If you understand that, say amen. Amen. Okay, one person listening. We'll have question and answer at the end, so just make sure you get that point. If you don't understand this, write that down, because we're going to go a little bit further and come back. Just write it down, we'll answer the question at the end. You have another sheet called Dietary Plan. Dietary Plan. Because as we look at these ideas of healing foods, or the power of food to heal, as you take these foods and you chew them and you digest them and you take them into your body, and we know that it's not a once a day or a once a month thing. The idea of dieting is one of the main reasons why people have problems, because they think they're going to go on a diet and they're going to diet for a season and then get some benefit and then go right back to their desired lifestyle. If your desired lifestyle is causing you a need to diet, is it really so great to be desired? And is there a benefit in taking for a week or 30 days or so on a diet plan that makes you healthier, feel better, have all this positive to it, and then go back to, it doesn't make sense. It's like the idea in Christianity, or even of Catholicism, of having all this life of sin and then going and repent, and all this life of sin. That's not Christianity. Christianity is not this confessional kind of revolving door. It's talking about victory, right? And that's why we're talking about the gospel of health and connect the gospel with these plans of living. And we want to give and offer you an outline for a lifestyle plan. Because this is just an outline of a breakfast, lunch, and even a light supper that shows you a proper way to organize some of the principles we looked at through these 3 days into a lifestyle. Now, contrary to popular belief, the best and largest meal should be when? In the morning. In the morning. The morning time, you know why it's called break fast? You know it's called breakfast, right? But it's the word spelled break fast. Why is it called break fast? Because you're breaking the fast. Because generally throughout the night you should have been fasting. Now if you're eating a large meal late at night, are you fasting during the night? No. If you eat your largest meal and then go right to sleep, then your stomach is still working through the night. When you wake up, you're not hungry. But if you have a light meal way before you go to bed, and you're not going to bed on a full stomach, then generally you're going to be, when you wake up, you're going to feel alert, you're going to feel great, you're going to be ready to eat, and this is the time when your body physiologically and also practically is ready for its largest meal. Many people are suffering from duodenal ulcers, ulcer in general, duodenal ulcers, acid reflux, indigestion, and various different things because of eating these large, especially large protein meals at night, and the stomach is laboring to deal with these things because we're not taking some time between meals and sleep, or we're eating in a way, we're eating these large protein meals, these fried foods, these various different things that is very hard to digest. And that's why the television is replete with commercials dealing with indigestion, with Tums and Rollies and so on, because people are eating in a way that's causing problems. This outline shows you how to organize, as we said the other day, your meal plan around a whole carbohydrate, a complete carbohydrate. When I say carbohydrate, I'm talking about white rice, white pasta, and so on. People say, oh, I can't have carbs because carbs are too fattening. You know what kind of carbs are fattening? refined carbohydrates are fattening. Carbohydrates in their original form are not fattening. They are the cornerstone of health. It's a staff of life. If you take white rice, white refined pastas, all these refined grains, and you eat those things, white bread, these things have no fiber in them. They're pure sugar, and yes, they're going to be fattening. Yes, they're going to give a real boost of sugar in the system, and yes, they are health destroying if you consistently eat those things on a large basis. Yet, whole grains like brown rice, millet, oats, barley, quinoa, couscous, all these various things that you could find, these things provide whole grain nutrition. It provides your B vitamins, provides all the various things that your body needs, all the essential elements, and it provides the strength your body needs to fight, to work, to heal, to do all the things it needs. Without these complex carbohydrates, we're going to have a lot of problems. There's been a popular diet on the market for a long time called the Atkins diet. Ever heard of the Atkins diet? Atkins diet said, you know what, you want to lose weight? You eat a high protein diet and you eliminate all or next to all carbohydrates. And there's been a great debate over the Atkins diet because the Atkins diet works. It'll cause you to lose weight very, very, very quickly. However, what's it doing inside the body? 9 out of 10 people, I'll say 9.5 out of 10 people that go through the Atkins diet will say that they felt terrible, they felt sick, they had an indigestion, they had acid reflux, there were all kind of different issues that were going on while they're in this Atkins diet, eating steak 3 times a day, eating a bacon on bacon sandwich, and all this kind of stuff that they're doing. But they lost a lot of weight. Why? Because the Atkins diet is a way under the term or under the disguise of calling it a diet to cause people to do to go into a planned form of ketosis. Now, if you go and you know anything about biology and so on, there's a physiological state of the body called ketosis. And the Atkins diet is a way that Dr. Atkins designed to call a planned way of going into ketosis a diet. Now let me explain ketosis. Ketosis is when your body is starving for its primary source of fuel. Your body's primary source of fuel is sugar, is glucose. Anyone knows that knows anything about diet, health, and so on. Your primary source of fuel for your body is glucose. Glucose comes from your carbohydrates, When your body is starved, when you're fasting, when you don't have any food, your body goes into a state of ketosis. And when it goes into a state of ketosis, it starts to go to a secondary form after it uses all the stores that it has, after it uses all the different stores that the body has to feed off of. And then it goes to a form of secondary, which starts to go through and eat all the fat stores of the body. So once you go into ketosis, now your body starts to attack the fat in your body and starts to remove the fat from your body and utilize that and eliminate that. And then after it does that, it'll start moving to protein, actually destroying the tissue in your body. Now, this process is a artificially induced ketosis because there's 2 main ways you could do ketosis. One way is to tie you into a chair and lock you up and just leave you for a couple of days or maybe a month and see how long. You will go into ketosis if someone does that to you, because you start to starve it. Ketosis is another way of saying you're starving. Or you can take, a very, very fatty steak, a very, very fatty piece of pork, all kinds of different proteins, and just eat a large amount of protein and eat no carbohydrates, and your body will, even though you're eating food, your body will go into ketosis because you're not getting the starches you need. And many people are trying to, quote unquote, eliminate carbs because carbs are fattening. They want to eliminate carbs, and they are starving their body of carbohydrates and moving more to eating the fatty foods like meats and so on. And when you eat all these fatty foods with like meat and so on, what do you find also with the protein that's in meat? The animal fat. And when you start eating more of this animal fat, what happens to your arteries? What happens to your heart? What happens to your blood vessels as you're eating more of animal beef and chicken and all these types of animal fat? What happens to your arteries? Start to close down on you. And you start being more and more prone to heart attack, more and more prone to stroke, and because you're eating high amounts of protein, more and more prone to kidney failure. There have been scientific studies that show that the people that started the Atkins diet in the late 70s, how a great percentage of them, an ever increasing percentage of them now in 2000 and almost 2012, now are having renal failure, that means kidney failure, have a very high 60 and 70% or more high percentage of heart disease, hardening the arteries, double and triple bypass surgery. Why? Because even though they've lost a lot of outward adipose weight, they've eaten so much animal fat and animal foods that their heart has suffered, their kidneys, their internal organs have suffered the long range effects of the Atkins diet. So I say that again, if you really understand nutrition, carbohydrate is not your problem. It's eating these refined carbohydrates instead of whole grains. You will not see someone gain excess weight or have weight problems eating true whole grain breads, whole grain pasta, if you want to use that, oats and so on. You won't find that. It's very, and if you don't believe that, go to places like Japan and the various places that eat a lot of whole grain products and stuff like that, and fruits and vegetables, and you'll find problems with weight are very, very, very rare in these countries because of what they're eating. However, you take the same people and bring them over to American first, second, third generation, and you see the same problems that Americans have are seen by them because they adopt our diet. We need carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are the foundation, surrounded by your proper amounts of fruits and vegetables. And it's reflected right here. It says your cooked grains. Then you have fresh fruits like apples. Now these are suggestions. There's many types. Apples, pear, grapes, cherry. And you choose how many types? 2 or 3 times. So what the word would call 2 or 3 servings to get that in on your first meal. Then it said you might have a fruit sauce or spread. A fruit sauce or spread now takes this fresh fruit you have and also takes a prepared fruit. So you take now something that's going to have something that may be cooked a little bit, that brings some other nutrients out that may not be in an actual fresh fruit. So you get the best of both worlds. You get the fresh and also you get something that's cooked that brings out those hidden healing properties, those hidden nutritional properties that are not generally in your fresh fruits and vegetables. Let me give you an example of a fruit spread. You ever seen, you can get these Welch's grape concentrate juices and so on? You can take that, or even take regular juice, and you could pour it into a saucepan and heat it. And as you heat that, and you add maybe a little cornstarch, and even if you just take the actual concentrate, as you heat it, it will start to thicken. And it'll start to give off an aroma. And sometimes you could put a little bit of cornstarch inside it and actually thicken just like a sauce. And you could put that sauce with a little sweetener over some ice cream scoops of brown rice, ice cream scoops of couscous, some grits or what have you, some really thick grits. And you can put that over that. You can put some nuts over that, some dried fruit, and with a fruit cup and so on, and maybe some whole grain toast, you can have a very appetizing looking and actually healthy breakfast. You have your fruits, you have your sauce, you have your nuts, you have your dried coconut, whatever, you have your dried fruits, and it's a very healthy and filling breakfast, and it starts your day correctly, getting your carbohydrates, getting your fruits, getting your cooked fruits, getting your nuts, that says right there, and also your seed. It gives you a perfect outline to get started, right? Then we see dinner, same thing. It says cooked grain, brown rice, baked potato, millet, corn, same thing. Then it says steamed green vegetable. Now you can change these, but I'm just giving some options. Steamed green vegetable, or cooked beans or peas. Then you have a fresh salad. Notice that the fruit is one meal, the vegetable is another meal, rather than putting them together, because that doesn't always work very well. This one you have a fresh raw salad rather than a fruit cup. You have romaine lettuce and vegetables of your choice. Then you have a salad dressing. Now, the salad dressing could be various types of salad dressings. I know Pastor Tinsley, through his ministry, has a cookbook that might be helpful to you. But there's various types of salad dressings you can use that also are going to be beneficial without causing a lot of problems. Did you know that they did a study and found that the salad dressing that most people use on their salad one salad dressing had more fat than chicken. Than regular, like a drumstick of chicken. One had more fat than chicken. Salad dressing. And people say, man, I ate this good salad. I feel so good about myself because I ate this salad. It had more fat than a piece of fried chicken, and it had more sugar than a certain brand of ice cream in one salad dressing. Because the craze for health is so great that people that know out there that the average person is not really reformed and changed their diet that much, they'll give a salad dressing in the form of a comfort food that's high in fat, high in protein, high in sugar, and people will be more acclimated to get that than a more healthier one. We can't be deceived, brothers and sisters. We have to understand that some of these things that say health on the bottle is about money. And they're not really interested in health. They're not interested in really giving you something that's healthy. But everything says, does anything not say natural to them? Everything says natural. Everything says healthy. Everything says best choice. But brothers and sisters, there's nothing healthy about something that can be just as damaging to your arteries, even if you put it on salad, as eating steak. There's nothing healthy, or anything funny about that. We have to read labels. We have to be wise. Okay, on this handout, it gives you on the bottom some simple recipes to make a milk substitute, as well as another salad dressing on there. And again, through Everlasting Gospel, you can find some other different options and cookbooks that you can use to help you. But this gives you an outline of how to get started, how to start implementing these things into a diet program. Okay, we have another handout with these natural remedies. Now, some of you may know these natural remedies already. But now we're going to shift a little bit from eating a daily, consistent diet, breakfast, lunch, and if need be a dinner, a daily plan of eating these healing foods in a properly prepared way. That's a first line of promoting healing and restoring healing. But also there's a need of using some things that can be therapeutic. What do I mean therapeutic? And when I use the word therapeutic, it means that these things are not necessarily a food or something that you're eating to sustain life on a daily basis, but it's a concentrated and the way that it's used and how it's used is different from a regular food. Because on here you'll see some things that like over here in this vegetable drink. The same thing in the vegetable drink you find in a salad. You find some spinach, you find some carrots, you find the same thing as salad. However, you eat salad maybe once a day, and you might have 2 or 3 pieces of carrot, a handful of spinach or lettuce or what have you. You have a small amount of those things that you're actually eating during that one day. However, when you take this juicing, the juicing uses a lot more quantity, removing the fiber out and giving just the pure juice in a therapeutic way. And you'll take this drink 3 times a day because you're getting, as far as quantity and quality, a greater amount over a greater period of time to get a better effect. That's why I call it therapeutic, where you use the same thing you use in a salad, but the amount and how you use it is a therapeutic way. Because if you think you're just going to eat a carrot stick now and then have good eyes, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. You don't get a healing or get your body to restore itself eating a carrot stick once in a while. The same way you have to take medicine and take it consistently. We talk about eating a proper diet consistently, and then with that foundation, we place upon that using natural remedies if need be in a therapeutic way. For instance, let's look at something here. You see where it says nature's penicillin down here. Let's look at that. Nature's penicillin. Now, you know, I forgot to bring something. That's okay. Nature's penicillin. On this nature's penicillin, it talks about grapefruit, orange, lemon, so on and so forth. Now, some of these things you find in a breakfast. Some people eat grapefruit. They have orange in the morning, maybe some lemon, or who knows. Citrus, right? But these things are used here therapeutically to make a food medicine. You'd wash the grapefruit, the orange, the lemon, so on, and you're going to blend the entire fruit along with some onion, cloves of garlic, and a little bit of cayenne. Now you say, blend the whole thing? Yes, blend the whole thing. Why? Because there's more vitamin C in the rind of the orange than the actual orange. Do you know that? There's more vitamin C in the grapefruit skin than in the grapefruit. And also all the other healing properties, there is the amount of healing properties in the skin as opposed to the actual flesh of the orange, the lemon, so on, the grapefruit is exponential. How much healing properties in the skin as opposed to the actual food. Now, I'm not saying don't eat the flesh of these things. Yes, the actual grapefruit juice and so on is good. I'm saying that the difference in how much nutrients are inside the skin as opposed to the actual flesh is tremendous. So we're going to use this whole thing and we're going to cut it up and blend it into a paste. Now, when you get a concentrated, like say for instance, 1/4 of a fresh grapefruit, 1/2 of an orange, 1/2 of a lemon with peeling, 1/4 of a large onion, 2 cloves, little pieces of garlic, and a pinch of cayenne. When you blend that together, you get a very, very tart, citrusy, yet garlicky paste. And this paste has all the phytonutrients you need to have a natural antibiotic. Because this paste, if you, as it says there, if you take 1 tablespoon and you're chewing this consistently over the period of a day, or over a period of days, it's going to deal with all the different kinds of viral, flu, bacterial issues in the body. I've seen this with someone who had abscess tooth. Now, abscess tooth is very, very bad. And, you know, that can become systemic and very dangerous after a period of time. But by using nature's penicillin, the person was able to remove the fever, to come to a point of normalcy until they were able to go to the dentist and actually get that tooth taken care of, that abscess taken care of. I've seen nature's penicillin in connection with hydrotherapy, as we talked about yesterday, help people that have cold and flu symptoms. Even if the cold actually got them, that they really are suffering from flu, this actually shortens the duration and also the intensity of flu because it is a natural, a drugless form of antibiotic. And when I say antibiotic, it means that it kills harmful bacteria, it kills viruses. This, as opposed to store-bought or over-the-counter antibiotics you receive from the pharmacy, it kills good and bad bacteria. So the bad bacteria that's causing your body harm, and also the good bacteria that's in your colon and different parts of your body, it kills all that. That's why sometimes people have diarrhea and things after taking antibiotics. That's the difference between the natural and the pharmaceutical. This is a natural form. But what are you using? Fruits, a couple herbs, a little bit of medicinal cayenne, and this is alone able to really help you get a sense of healing or get tremendous healing without having to resort to antibiotics, especially antibiotics that can cause some other side stream problems or side effects. And I'm sure you've been seeing on the news and television lately how they have all these drug medications and say how great they are, and then it says it can cause blindness, heart disease, stroke. You ever seen that on television? You don't watch television, do you? We see it all the time. But do people not buy those medications? Can you imagine seeing a medication that said this medication to help you stop smoking, but it might cause you to commit suicide, it can cause you to be impotent, it can cause you brain damage and so on and so forth, and people still go. That shows me that somebody has to believe in the truth. I can't believe that people don't want the truth. Because if you could look at something that's supposedly going to do something great for you and has all these negative side effects, but you still do it, I cannot be silent or be ashamed to be a Christian in this day. How could you? If someone could look at that and choose that with all those side effects, then certainly somebody wants to serve Jesus in 2011. I believe that. Now, brothers and sisters, as we look at all these handouts, you have a lot to think about, but we want to balance something here. All that we talked about, all these nutrients, all these foods, all these food medicines, and all that you can continue to read as you look at this handout tonight and as you go throughout the week. The benefit that we see here of all these things that you can eat must be balanced with water. Talking about balance now. Food and the benefit you get from food can only be properly assimilated by the body if you have proper hydration. Most people are not drinking the amount of water they need. I'm not talking about liquids. People drink big gulps and Slurpees and so on and so forth, and they really believe by drinking these various liquids that they're getting all the hydration they need, but they don't realize that many things that they're drinking are diuretics. Diuretics. Many things that people drink and they think they're getting all this benefit from, they are diuretics. Like say for instance, coffee. Some people drink large amounts of coffee and think because I'm drinking these coffees or caffeinated sodas, that by drinking these things, I'm getting fluid buildup and I'm really getting my fluid intake and I should be hydrated. But caffeinated drinks, especially coffee, are diuretics. In other words, as you take these things out, it pushes water out of your body. So you drink a lot of that, but it's actually pushing fluid out. So as you think you're gaining, you actually what? You're actually losing. The best liquid for the body to really hydrate the body is water. And everything in the sense of healing, cell repair, and so on, and you talk about going from a state of being ill to being healthy. If you want to take the body through a process of healing or restoration or cell regeneration, so on, you need water to do that. You can have the best diet in the world, but if you're dehydrated, there's only so much you can get. You can cut the nutrients. You can cook something correctly, have some nice salad and so on, and have it prepared by the most informed chef, and you eat that thing every day. But if you're dehydrated, you can only get maybe about 20 or 30% of that, the nutrients. Why? Because everything happens in the water environment. Everything in your body happens in the water environment. You need water. The food and the benefit of food is balanced by water. If you are dehydrated, the best food that you could eat, you only get a small portion of it or a certain percentage of it because you're not hydrated enough for your body to assimilate and to bring that in and make it into good blood. So how much more if you are dehydrated and eating bad foods? You see why people age so quickly? See why people get sallow skin and wrinkles and they feel tired and all these various problems come upon them? Because they're eating bad food and not drinking hardly any water, and even drinking upon that things that are diuretics and pushing water out. So it's a cycle it's a vicious cycle. And that's why we see so many diseases and problems and so many full hospitals and so few people really having an abundant life. This is the reason why we have to understand and study these principles and see the balance that God has there between drinking water and eating the right type of foods. Now let me ask you a question. What's the first sign of advanced dehydration? Someone would say dried lips. Someone would say tiredness. Someone would say, chapped skin. You know what the first sign of advanced dehydration is? Thirst. When you feel thirsty, that means you have what people that are in the science of hydration specialists, they say that thirst is a sign of advanced dehydration. You should drink on a consistent basis because you should drink, because it's necessary. You're constantly taking fluids in daily. But when you feel thirsty, you say, man, I am so thirsty. That means you're very dehydrated. And you know when we generally feel thirsty a lot? When we start to do what? Start to eat. And one of the reasons why that is because when we sit down to eat and our salivary glands and the body starts getting ready to do this kind of food, the body always tries to remind you, hey, you're going to eat this food, but guess what? You're dehydrated. So what do we do then? Then we eat and drink. And then while we eat and drink, we're not drinking water. But even if we are, when we eat and drink together, as we put this liquid into our stomach, the hydrochloric acid is ready and primed to digest that food and to not cause indigestion. When we add all this liquid inside our hydrochloric acid, what do we do to hydrochloric acid? We dilute it. And if it's diluted, that acid, what's the word I'm looking for? The word that's not coming to you. The correct acid mixture, if you want to call it that your body has to digest your food, if it's diluted, then your ability to digest your food is lessened. And the chance of getting, especially depending on what you're eating, the chance of getting indigestion is greater. Hence, besides eating the wrong types of food at the wrong times, by eating and drinking a lot, we're getting more cases of indigestion. And the ability to really take that water in and utilize it correctly also is diminished. It's a vicious cycle. Eating and drinking, we should try and separate those things out and try to not eat with our meals unless we have to, unless we're choking on something. Drink first, and let some time elapse before we eat. And then when we eat, we let some time elapse before we drink so that we're not messing with the digestion of food or the assimilating of fluids. I'd like to end with this thought. Eating and drinking also must be balanced and are important. But do you know that the water you drink to hydrate your body is going to help you with restoration? The cells becoming healthier, dividing, becoming healthier, the tissues regenerating, muscle like protein giving you better muscles and so on, developing the muscles, developing the arterial blood system. All these things are done by a proper diet with proper hydration. But guess what? Even if you have proper hydration and are able to assimilate these foods and so on, when does the body start to actually regenerate the body and start to really do this process of restoring and healing? At night. See, all these things we can't look at diet here, water here, rest here. They all play together. They are to be in synergy together. Because if you say, I'm going to drink water now, you start drinking some water. And because you're drinking water and getting the proper hydration, now as you change your diet and start eating correctly, now these are working in harmony. But guess what? You're not getting any sleep. Because you're up late at night, and then you have to get up early in the morning, so you get a small amount of sleep. So even if you were eating the best type of food, how much time do you have for your body really to rest, rejuvenate, and apply all those healing principles to your tissues, recharge the immune system? Do you see it? So if we're not doing that, then every day that we do that, we're losing more and more sleep, and we're losing more and more benefit. We're eating the food, I hope. So if we're really not eating correctly, it becomes even more vicious cycle. We're dehydrated, we're not getting the right type of foods, and then when it's time for us to rest, we don't give our body a chance to really regenerate it and the immune system to recharge itself. It has no fuel to recharge itself. It has no water to really cause the blood system to really work correctly. And then when a virus comes around, we're sick. When a bacterial infection comes upon us, we have nothing to fight at all, because we're not getting the water we need, the nutrients we need, the rest we need, and also in connection with that, the exercise. You still follow me? Or did I lose you? All these four play together. We have to have the proper fluid, water especially, nutrients, rest, and exercise. Because if you eat correctly, right, get the right amount of fluids in your diet, and you go to bed on time, go to bed early, get in bed at least by 9 o'clock, and you get in bed and you get some rest, and you're able to sleep, get your body ready to get some good rest. You know, you're not eating late at night to give your body indigestion and waking up. You're getting some good rest. And then you get up in the morning and you go to work and so on, and you do all these various different things, but you're not exercising. Guess what? What happens to your muscles? They get weaker and weaker. Now, they might be in principle getting nutrients, but they're not getting exercise. And your heart rate, your ability to, your breathing capacity, all the various functions of the body are still going to deteriorate, because your body was made to exercise. And if you don't exercise, you cannot properly flush the body. You know you can't have perfect health without exercise? Because do you know that when you look at the body, you have certain pumps in the body, like say the blood system, all your veins, they don't have this blood circulating just because they just zoom around like that. The heart pumps, and when the heart pumps, it moves all these fluids, blood and so on, around the circulatory system. And you have two pumps called the lungs. As you take in deep breaths of air and you exhale and inhale and so on, it causes air to go in through the respiratory system and pumps that around your body. But there are other systems that don't have a pump. Like say, for instance, the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system helps the circulatory system. The lymphatic system helps cleanse the body. Without the lymphatic system, your body will not be able to cleanse and keep from getting toxic. It's helped with detoxification. And the circulatory system has no pump. The only way that circulatory system is pumped is by the heart and the lungs being stimulated beyond normal processes. In other words, me just taking a breath like that and a breath like that doesn't stimulate the lymphatic system. My heart beating the way it is right now, boop, 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 doesn't affect the lymphatic system. So even though I'm eating and doing various things that might be right, if I'm not exercising and causing my heart rate to be elevated, to cause deep breaths, and also my heart rate to be elevated, then the circulatory system is not flushing. and not causing certain poisons that the body naturally has to come out. Because when you breathe, you take in fresh oxygen, and what does your body give off? Carbon dioxide. No worries, this is not a test you can fail. You can call it an answer. Carbon dioxide, right? Carbon dioxide is a poison, right? Your body gives off poisons because that system you have is designed to do that. Your blood also, it takes in that oxygen, and also the blood also takes poison and takes it to eliminating parts of the body like the kidneys and so on and so forth to get rid of it. Now what about the lymphatic system? The lymphatic system also has poisons, but if it's not pumped to flush, then what does it hold on to? Those poisons. And that's another way we seem to see advanced aging, our skin, the body seems to now tend to look and give signs that, hey, your body is breaking down. Your body's breaking down. Look at this, look at this, look at this. And generally we say, oh, he's just getting older. No, the body's giving signs that your health is going. Your health is going. Your youth is going. And we can be, even though advanced age, we can be youthful by following the principles of health. The lymphatic system is very, very important, but we have to exercise. Does that mean go out and start a marathon? No. Start walking. Start getting some kind of walking. By walking, you take deep breaths, don't you? And your heart rate is increased, and you can slowly develop as you change your diet, as you get water, and you start on a plan of better health. So you add these 4 things. Proper drinking of water. That's on one of your handouts, right? Proper diet, whether it be consistent eating of the right type of foods, especially a plant-based diet, eliminating animal products that are causing so many allergies and so many different ailments and so many heart problems and so many different causes of eliminating those things completely out of our diet as God has given us greater light and greater opportunity. Then we want to balance that with exercise, because without exercise, our muscles are going to weaken and we start having problems that diet cannot deal with. Diet is not going to flush your lymphatic system. I don't care how detoxifying the herbs you think are, your body cannot properly detoxify without exercise. You can take a cleanse, you can take chlorophyll, you can take colonics. I don't care what you take, your body cannot properly detoxify without exercise. It is physiologically impossible. And then with all these things that we're doing, eating, drinking, and even exercising, we have to get proper rest. Proper rest. Now, I'm going to share something with you. Do you know that you can rest every night on time and still not get the rest that you really, really need, or the most essential rest? Because there is a principle of rest that even some people that go to bed early and feel refreshed in the morning, there's a principle of rest that many people are ignoring. You know what it is? The Sabbath. Because whether you believe in the 7th day or not, do you know that science has shown that on that 7th day, and when I say the 7th day, I'm not talking about the calendar 7th day, I'm talking about Friday sunset, when the Bible says the Sabbath begins, to Saturday sunset. During that period of time, your body has what's called a circadian rhythm. What are circadian rhythms? Science has found there's certain rhythms in the body, and they've found that certain hormones are released consistently in the body everywhere in the world. The same people, every person in the world has the same type of rhythms. Their body releases hormones. Let me give you an example of a rhythm. When a young girl gets to be around 13 or 14, her body starts producing hormones in the way she starts having a menstrual cycle. That's a rhythm in the body. You don't have to make a child do that. It's a developed rhythm that God has placed in the body, and it comes out naturally. An infant gets teeth. The parents don't massage and make the teeth come out. It's in the body that happens naturally. And everything in the body is running by these cycles, these laws that God has put in there. If we know how to work in harmony with these laws, we have health. If we work against these laws, we have disease, sickness, and death. And these laws are everywhere through the body, but most people don't understand them. Do you know that there's a law that is perfectly harmonized with the Sabbath, that when the Sabbath comes around, when Friday sunset comes around, that whether you believe in Satan, Buddha, Muhammad, or whoever you believe in, your heart rate goes down Friday night. Your blood pressure goes, I don't give you high blood pressure, your blood pressure goes down considerably, relatively, on Friday night, and this effect lasts throughout that 24-hour period. When you look at all your blood pressures, all your heart rates and so on throughout the week, and you compare them with Friday night to Saturday night, they are always low because that law is in the body. And that's of everybody. Now, what if we truly kept the Sabbath as God says and did what God said and bring the spiritual principle of the Sabbath into that and see what kind of benefit that we would have then? Jesus says, if you keep my commandments and my words abide in you, that we will not only have benefit here, but where? In heaven above. Jesus said, heaven and earth will pass away. What won't pass away? My words won't pass away. Heaven and earth will more pass away than God's word. And these promises, even of health, that God has said are going to be spiritually, physically, and mentally health promoting. Remember Exodus 15:26 as we close. And Exodus 15:26, God says there's certain commandments that God has given that if we follow them, we would have health. Exodus 15:26. And of those commandments that he said would promote health, in the 10 commandments, we have a law of the 10 commandments that is health promoting. The Sabbath is a time of spiritual rest. Is there a health benefit of keeping the Sabbath? I believe one of the greatest benefits that the people of God have, besides all the knowledge we have about diet, and all the knowledge we have about water and exercise and air and sunlight and all these things that are in the Bible, one of the greatest is faith in Christ that brings conversion and the keeping of God's Sabbath as a part of the entire law of God. These two are one of the greatest boons to our physical health that people can ever find out. But how many people are really searching for Christ in that way? Again, as we close tonight, we've had 3 days to look at some of these biblical principles of health, and I pray that you've gotten a great understanding of some of these first principles of Bible health. I want you to take your handouts tonight, and with the other handouts you have, go over them, study them, and when we come back together again for some future studies and maybe some cooking classes or some things that we may do in the future, that we'll be far along in the process of reform because we've been taking the light we have and walking with it. And let me say as we close this, your pastor knows a lot more than he lets on to. Because your pastor, while he may not let people know, he's traveled and lived with me more than any. I think he knows more about health than anyone in my family does. Because I've lived with him for over 10 years. In fact, we've done crusades all over the country. He's heard more of my talks and so on health and probably could recite them from memory. Because if he tells you to forget something, he doesn't forget anything. Oh, I forgot. He can remember numbers. One time he had a phone. I'm going to talk about you right now. One time he had a phone. And he had a cell phone with no names in it. I'll never forget it. He had a cell phone with just numbers. Just numbers. And he would look at the numbers and he'd know exactly who it was by the numbers. No names. And I said, when this brother tells me he forgot something, I will never believe him again. How could he just look at numbers and remember who it is by looking at the numbers? So I said to say this. If you have any questions after I leave about health, feel free to ask him. He knows. He knows. He's an excellent preacher on righteous by faith and on the Bible prophecies, but he knows the health message. He knows. We often joke about it, but yet still, he knows these truths. So please utilize him. You know, if you want to call me, that's fine, but he understands a lot more than he thinks he does. Amen. And with that, we'll have a word of prayer. Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the purpose and power of your third angel's message. We thank you for the opportunity we've had in these few days to get the basic principles, lay a foundation for future talks, future sessions, dealing with the gospel of health. We thank you for the ministry here of Pastor Darren Tinsley, a very, very quiet, unassuming champion of faith. We pray that you would continue to bless his ministry here. We thank you for allowing him to see God's hand in coming to this place where there's so many calls for him to go so many places and do so many things. He's chosen to put down roots here and to do a work here. And I pray that you would continue to bless him and the flock that's developing here, that they may see the benefit of having gospel messages, systematic studies, and even a true school of prophets in this location, that they might have life and life more abundant. Help us, dear God, to press together in these last hours to get a greater knowledge of the biblical and spiritual principles of your gospel, that whether it be practical lines in health reform and the various teachings we're looking at tonight, or in the larger, greater principles of Christ's ability to save us from our sins, destroy the power of addictions and shackles that bind us in sin, that we may live this life of Christ. We pray that in all these areas, you might allow us to witness for you in this last generation, You might restore our physical bodies, not for our glory, but that men may see our good works that you have blessed us with, and they may glorify you in heaven. For we ask all these blessings in Jesus' name. Let's say together.